Three, two, one, go. So another '90s movie.
Yeah,
Um,
1990.
yeah, I know. Hard to believe it was that long ago. Like it's closer to 40 years rather than 30 now. I'm watching the remastered version of this, and it's come up with like three different Universal logos. Uh, I was kind of surprised because a lot of these films are getting. You'd be surprised these extended cuts that are coming out for movies that have massive followings like this. So if there is an extended version of Kindergarten Cop, or there's a special edition that has new scenes added into it, it's news to me.
Yeah,
But yeah,
it'd be nice to get something like that.
it's an interesting
I'd
way to
wait.
start this, eh? Um, with the
Yeah,
crayon
it's a great
credits.
opening because all the elements work. Roger Ebert said in his review when it came out, the movie has two parts to it that shouldn't really work together. But this is one of the scenes where the fusion does line up. You've got the really creative, playful credits. You got the kind of sinister sounding music as Kimball is stalking Crisp here in the shopping mall. It shouldn't really go together, but it really works. It's very effective.
And I love how Crisp is like clean cut. You know, yeah, he's smoking in a public area, but then you see Kimball very unkempt and all of that, so you're not too sure. If you were to just go into this blind,
Yes.
you're not too sure who the villain is at the moment.
Yeah, that's right. He doesn't look like a cop, but it establishes shortly that he's an undercover type of cop. Richard Tyson. What
Yeah,
is briefly?
I think he was big on what was it, 3 o'clock High, and I think the other big thing prior to this was Two Moon Junction with Cheryl and Fenn.
Yeah, Two Moon Junction is the one that kind of springs to mind when I sort of see him. But he also had a very small, memorable role in There's Something About Mary as the strung out cop, and he had a kind of small pivotal role in Black Hawk Down as well, with Ridley Scott's film.
Yeah, it's kind of a shame he never took off apart from this because he kind of fell
He's
into a
very
lot of like light erotic kind of movies. Like if there was ever like a
yeah,
chick flick coming out, they'd just cast Richard Tyson, you know, because he had the body for it. Because why not? He didn't
he's
really
very
have too many roles like
he's very
this.
prolific. Yeah, he's very prolific in the B movie sort of scene. He has a long filmography, but most of his stuff I hadn't heard of. So this was directed by Ivan Reitman, uh, of Ghostbusters fame. It's actually his second collaboration with Arnold Schwarzenegger. They did Twins in the mid '80s, and they'd go on to do uh, Junior, but I guess that's where the magic ended in the early
Yeah,
'90s.
I
A
can't.
few
Yeah,
months.
the comedy.
But he had a long career as well. He's directed some films that I'm a fan of, like 6 Days, 7 Nights, that Harrison Ford one.
Yeah, and Anne
So
Hesh, I think was the Sheila in that.
yeah,
Um,
sadly passed away in 2022.
there was kind of a thing in the '90s to put Arnold Schwarzenegger in a shopping mall setting. Like Kindergarten Cop did it, Terminator 2 does it, Jingle All the Way does it. Like they can't stop putting Arnold Schwarzenegger in shopping malls in all these films. Well, it's not a '90s film, but
Yeah,
also Commando does it. It just kind of works, doesn't it?
yeah. Well, I'll touch on a couple of points you made there. So this is Arnie at his absolute peak. He was in hit after hit after hit. He Twins, Predator, The Running Man, Kindergarten Cop,
Mm.
and Terminator 2 was next year, after this one. But yeah, this is Arnie at his absolute peak here.
And then
And
immediately
it
we've
really,
yeah.
yeah, and it really established just how much range he had to hop from genre to genre like that. That's like action and science fiction and outright comedy. And he's the only one of those sort of big '80s action stars to make that successful transition. I know Stallone had some ill-conceived comedy, projects that weren't all that well received, but Arnold, because he's got a lot of natural charisma, and he's I forget the actor. He said he sort of tried to learn from, but he got a lot of comedic timing from this one actor in particular, and it really cemented him as a comedic star. Because, like you mentioned, with some of those films like Jingle All the Way, he stayed in comedy after this. He's done several ones in his career.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Like he's always kind of had one foot in it and one foot out of it. Like even in films that don't fit comedic genre as you'd imagine it to be. Like he has some bits of comedy even in things as dead serious as Terminator and all of that. And
Yes,
so he
yes,
always had kind of had a natural like proclivity for it that I
yeah,
don't
and
think the
he's never
others really
failed to
did.
mention that. He's given quite a few interviews where he never fails to mention the the unexpected humour in the Terminator, and it must have been evident in the script because he never really says that he had the idea, but yeah, there's a lot of well-timed comedy in the Terminator and some really clever humour in it to lighten the mood of because the sort of the atmosphere of the Terminator movies is really intense sometimes.
See, we just had an on-screen kill there, like of someone just barely like what in their mid 20s, um, and you've got these drug addicted teens right here, and
Yeah,
you just
hard
can't
to
help
catch.
but think with the themes of drug abuse that are in this around the Cindy character. You just can't help but think this simply wouldn't fly today.
Yeah, well, that was one of the things that hurt the movie when it came out. There were some a lot of critics who thought it was too dark for children. So it is a kind of a dark comedy in that sense. There are some, yeah, really adult tones in it and some, intense content.
It's like what Jim
I
Carrey.
forgot to
It's like what Jim Carrey said one time. If we just pay attention to our kids, I think we'll be okay.
yeah, because it dawned on me when I was revisiting the film earlier in the week. I was around the age of the kids in the film. 1990, I was probably six, five turning six. So I'm not sure of the age where kids actually start kindergarten, but I wouldn't have been too far off, give or take a year or two,
Yeah, yeah.
as all times to
You
take
were
care of this.
you were the target market, and I absolutely love because this is the I love the line here of Kimball not again, and
Yeah,
like because this obviously isn't the first time that he's done this at all, and you kind of just get this unhealthy obsession that Chris mentions a couple of times, especially in the interrogation room just shortly after this, about why Kimball's wife left him because this particular case, he's just been obsessed with it for so long. And I don't think his actual, like, unkempt appearance is strictly an undercover kind of thing at the moment. I think because he's just so obsessed with nailing Crisp, he just can't be bothered shaving anymore or wearing a uniform or brushing up in suits and ties. He just couldn't care about that anymore.
yeah, you do get the impression he's been dogging Crisp for a while. As now, this is Pamela Reed here,
Yeah, I know, a real
great
gem, isn't
actress.
she?
Yeah, I remember her as the mother in the television show Jericho with Skeet Ulrich, and she's also the other role that immediately springs to mind is she's the mother character in the Mr. Bean big screen movie.
Yeah, I think it was the '97 one, Mr. Bean, the disaster movie. I think it's called. Um,
Yeah, I
which,
failed to get the actress's name who plays Cindy though. That passed me by in the credits. I'm not sure who plays Cindy.
and you can see her right now jonesing for a fix here of just how far gone she is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a really good performance.
yeah, like I mean, I do know she just witnessed her dealer get blown away. Um, but you can just see she really wants to get out of there because she needs that fix. And when you find her again, you know, she can barely string a sentence together. And I love this kind of checkered tiled floor here. I
Yeah,
don't know, there was something about it that always stuck out to me. And there's a mention here that I'm not too sure if it's here, it might be a little bit later, but Kimball has gone without a partner for quite some time now.
yeah, Kimball. It's just a me thing. I found it interesting they named the character that, uh, the last name Kimball, because of course You have Richard Kimball from The Fugitive,
Yeah, that's right.
the
Yeah,
character's name. I just thought it was a weird quirk that only I would probably notice.
yeah. I still love the shades on when the sun's going down.
Yeah.
You know, like he really
Yeah.
couldn't care. Or maybe they were channeling a bit of
Channeling a bit
his
of Terminator.
Terminator appearance. Yeah. And then he pulls out like, and also this bloke on the right here, I think a lot of people remember as Carter from the Lost World, and
Yeah, he's been in a lot of
yeah,
bit parts in a lot
the
of
name
things.
escapes me, but he got stomped to death by the female T Rex, and Nicolas Cage punched him out, Comprende, Essay, and Con Air. So, and he's also been punched out by Schwarzenegger, so he's got a lot of range. Um, yeah, I think this is pretty accurate because there's places, you know, in metropolitan areas that look like this today still. So a lot of this is aged very well for a film
I
that's
quite like the shot of him walking up the stairs, sussing it out.
it's like a
It's
fire
really
escape,
cool.
isn't it? Yeah. I love this little look back that he gives to the camera here, almost, you know, kind of breaking the fourth wall. Like he does this little look
Oh,
back, and then it's just on
yeah,
as soon
these
as he
guys
goes
have
in there.
no idea what they're in for.
I love how the door just back there was made out of a fence,
Yeah,
just with a bit of wood over it, and then you've got more fence structures in there, and the cameo of Branscombe, who was also the clown that held a taser to Selena Kyle, Michelle Pfeiffer in Batman Returns.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, he was in a film with John Cypher. It's a guilty pleasure of mine called Snowkill, and he also was in the TV show Renegade with Lorenzo Lamas.
Yeah, that's right. I love the cinder blocks holding up wood. Like, what is this? Is this an apartment building or a construction site? And then he just shoves that guy, which was always brilliant. And just unloading lead, like no waving badges, nothing. He plants a blast, you know, some buckshot into the stereo to kill it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I just thought that was, yeah, just the way he asserts himself here. And he's putting him, like, he's got no backup, no cover, and all this kind of thing. And the environment that he's in, like, this could easily go pear shaped for him. And it just shows
yeah,
you that Kimball is just not to be trifled with.
yeah. I always love that quick little shot of him taking the drums off the table as he leaves, all
Yeah.
the shots.
And I always love that, that line, not a classy girl like you. Um, you know, yeah, she really is personality plus, but who knows how she ended up in this situation, you know? Like, she can't tell left from right. Who knows?
Yeah,
And this, the lines, like the way that he's talking here, like he's not even blinking. Like he's, you know, you are going to testify. You are going to do it. There's no two ways about it. Like I've been too invested in nailing Chris for you to dick me around.
yeah. Once again, channeling a bit of his Terminator persona, his on-screen
Because this
persona.
isn't that far removed. Oh, about six years or so.
Yeah, but he was such a box office force in this era. Total Recall, which I think was the film previous to this, was huge.
Yeah, and
The
this
numbers,
is this is post Predator and Running Man as well.
yeah, that's right, all commercially successful
Yeah, Commando. Yeah, it's
films.
Raw Deal. All of that. Red Heat.
Yeah,
Like this is the start of his '90s era. Is what this
yeah.
is.
I was reading an interesting fact. I don't know if it's true, but it sounds awesome. He had the most recognized face on the planet, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Well, that doesn't surprise me because he
Yeah,
himself is like the closest thing to a living cartoon character, isn't he?
yeah, that just goes to show just the ferocious appetite moviegoers everywhere had for his films.
See, like he's got his conviction here, and he's still not happy. Like he wants to eradicate the entire drug network. Like it's just not enough to take Crisp down. And like this isn't even an interrogation room. This is like a cafeteria. There's vending machines behind Crisp and like a coffee table.
Yeah, yeah, he's right in here.
Yeah, they're absolutely brilliant. And I love that, you know, it seems to be something that happens with people who've been in a profession for a certain amount of time. They eventually stop just giving a shit about their overall appearance, full stop. Like, they stop wearing suits and ties, you know, the collar starts getting unbuttoned. They start wearing casual Friday every day of the week. You know, they
Yeah.
stop shaving. Like, when they've been doing something for a long time. And I think Kimball says to O'Hara later on that he's, you know, father was a cop, brother was a cop, mother was a cop's wife. And he's been doing that basically ever since he finished school. So you kind of get that sense that he's been at this for so long that that's kind of why he's wearing the denim shirt and all that.
Yeah.
I love the
And you tend
contrast
to
between those
overlook
two.
a lot of things. Yeah. You tend to overlook a lot of those things if they get results as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And also, I think their age is a big factor in it as well. Like, when someone gets to a certain age, I mean, you can't expect them to change their behaviour, mate. And I love how he brings O'Hara in on the joke. He works alone, just to kind of upstage him a little bit. Uh,
A funny moment that occurred
yeah,
just after the interrogation scene when his boss goes, Kimball, wait, and he just stalks out of the room.
which is something that he would end up doing again in Last Action Hero.
Yeah.
Yeah, you go in there and it's your badge and just throws it at him. Um, I really like the plane scene, and I've never been able to explain why. I think because you see, this is pretty much the only time you see O'Hara's detective skills in the entire film. Um, I think that's the reason why I kind of go to it a lot. And with Kimball taking these pot shots and all of that, she drops you know, it's the best I could do because this woman is essentially a ghost.
Yeah.
And this, you know, there was no social media and all of that. These days, you just scout out on Facebook. She'll rock up sooner or later. Some idiot will tag her in something.
Yeah, it'd be harder and harder these days to, yeah, begin a new life with an assumed name.
And Kim,
It's one of the reasons we'll touch on it briefly towards the end of the film. It's one of the reasons why the sequel with Dolph Lundgren doesn't really work. But we'll stay in the moment
yeah,
with these
Kimball.
two.
I love that little beat there. Kimball stealing the toy, but O'Hara gives it back, and she gives him that look, like, because he has no experience with kids.
Yeah,
He makes a mention a few times in the film that he has a son of his own that's a preteen teenager, 13 or so. Um, and they kind of always harken back to it, but it doesn't seem to have much of a personal kind of payoff for him. I'm not too sure. Because I
yeah,
was always under the impression that there were some heavy things removed from this film.
yeah.
And just
Quite possibly.
real quick there, you have him, this is what I'm going to do with you, like flat out threaten a kid to defending a kid that's being threatened at home.
Yeah,
And the cool beat there with Kimball asking O'Hara if she was hungry because she made a mention that she had that disorder. So
yeah,
when she started feeling sick, because she did make a mention of that, and he immediately asked her, "Are you sure you're not hungry?"
yeah,
So like he's not ignoring her the way that they would probably play it up today. So apparently this was actually filmed in Astoria.
yeah. Astonishing when you sort of read about it. Although it's just the exterior scenes that were filmed in Astoria, in Oregon, and the surrounding areas. Most of the interior scenes were filmed back in Hollywood. But yeah, it was a real school they found in Astoria, in Oregon, and filmed all the exterior scenes there. But that's not the crazy part. The crazy part is Astoria has featured in a lot of films. I think it's the I think the Goonies from the '80s is set there, but even some one of the Ninja Turtle films from the original trilogy
Oh
was
yeah.
partly. So for such a, I was reading the population of the town is only about 10,000 people. So for such a small town, it's had a fairly big effect. on some really big name
It's
movies.
like a seaside port, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a port town. Yeah,
Yeah. I always thought that wouldn't be a bad kind of setup. I love how Kimball's like fighting not to hurl himself. Um, yeah, I always thought a place like that would be nice to live in. And there's a couple of
yeah, it looks
mentions to
like a
that through
lovely
the
little
film.
town,
Yeah.
doesn't it?
It kind of reminds me of that Sea Haven from what's that a Truman Show, but it not being
Yeah,
a dome. Like that kind of port town. Like I don't know. I always thought that'd be a nice place to set up shop.
yeah.
And I always thought that O'Hara was wearing the trench coat that he was wearing at the start, but I've just clicked that it's not. Um, oh no, sorry, I've had a memory lapse. It's because the ferret comes out of the coat of his that I got those confused.
Yeah.
I see. I wonder where, like in the writing room, who came up with the idea of adding in the ferret? Like, why
It's a
that?
brilliant, yeah, it's such a really clever little wrinkle to put into a film. It's just brilliant. Yeah,
Yeah,
how
like you
many
got to give him
iterations?
something. Yeah,
Yeah, how many iterations of a story do you go through before you happen upon the idea of a ferret? I mean, that's up there with acid blood. Maybe not quite up there with acid blood, but it's a lovely little creative detail.
yeah, that he carries around with him. This is my pet ferret.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it's probably at this point in the film, it's the only thing he's shown any real compassion for.
yeah, it's not a dog, it's a ferret.
Yeah, you're looking much better already. And then he's got, oh, yeah, Arnold just carting Pamela Reed around like a doll. Like he picked her up off the sideboard and carried her back to the car. And now this, where she's just a dead
Yeah,
weight. Like it's brilliant. I love that. I love
it's
character
great.
foils.
Yeah, I love seeing actors use as props. Probably the best example was in Bad Santa, how Bernie Mac just picks up Billy Bob Thornton and drops him. It's
Yeah.
great. Using
So
actors as props.
yeah. This is me fighting off a hangover. This, how she's sprawled out over the side of the bed, and yeah, all buttoned up, clean shaven, and even she's taken back by the appearance. Oh God, like it's a real shocking kind of a moment, isn't it?
Yeah, it's terrific.
And it's kind of it's interesting how this man's got no fear walking in, guns loaded, getting shot at, taking on 20 people. But he starts taking like deep breathing exercises before going into the classroom. And he tries to have
Yeah,
this reassuring line like they're 6 year olds, how much trouble can they be? Like you just can't help but think he's trying to talk himself up to it.
yeah,
Yeah, I love the logging going on. And there's like a battle cruiser that goes past as well.
yeah. It's I'm not sure what a port town. I guess it's exporting. I didn't quite catch what the main thing for shipping is. This is Penelope Ann Miller. She's a pretty cool actress
Did she go
who
on to
plays
bigger and
Joyce.
better things? I can't.
So, in terms of genre, the two that stand out, like in genre films, was the 1994's The Shadow with Alec Baldwin. She plays Margot in that, and it's funny because I mentioned this film last week, The Relic with Tom Sizemore. She's in that as well, and they're both really good movies.
Yeah, that's right.
They're the two things that sort of jumped out at me when I reflect on her career. But she's pretty cool. I like seeing her in when she pops up. And she also was in Carlito's Way with Al Pacino.
Who who on this planet has got anything negative to say about Linda Hunt?
Yeah, she's great as the principal.
I love how like the most authoritative figure in this entire film is also the smallest in comparison to our main star with Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, and interestingly, it's not her first rodeo. She punches above her weight remember she was one of the henchmen in If Looks Could Kill.
Yeah, that's
Where,
right. Richard Grieco, wasn't it?
yeah, and she more than holds her own there. She kills a couple of guys in it.
Yeah. Yeah, she's got this real vicious streak. And like she even throws a punch, albeit to no one in particular, but she shows her stuff in this as well. And yeah, just
Yeah,
that stare down, like you wouldn't want to be on the wrong side of that. Like I love how she's pretty much half his size and just totally in control. And it's cool in that moment there that she basically sees through him straight away.
yeah,
And I wonder if this I was always thinking if this class was particularly rowdy with their prior teacher before Kimball comes in doing his undercover thing. But Dominic does have that moment of saying she was a lot better than you. So I think that kind of answers my question, I suppose.
yeah. These kids are great. I wonder how much trouble, because it's a sort of industry saying, like you never work with children or animals. I wonder how much grief they really were, because they just look so sweet. You got the kid who's just obsessed with death. He's probably my favorite.
And you got the other kid just obsessed with genitalia.
Yeah,
You've got the kid looking up girls' skirts. You got the kid eating all the lunches. Like they all have their own little moments to shine.
yeah,
Because in a lot of ways, like you would think that Schwarzenegger was the springboard for them, but it's the other way around. Like if the kids don't work, this film doesn't happen.
yeah. It's so much. Yeah, could have gone wrong with this picture. It's amazing, and I really like it. It tends to not be all that well received in a lot of commentary in and around Arnold's career, but I just love this movie. It's so great to watch.
Yeah, it can. You're looking at this now. You got these bright, colorful environments. You know, with the finger paintings and the toys and all this kind of stuff going on, compared to where we were just prior when we were leaving the original setting. Like you had these real grimy, drug-ridden apartments. It's so hard to believe that you're watching the same film. Like
Yeah,
like this part here when he walks into the classroom. Like you could have easily have started the film when he is talking to the principal. You know, like
yeah,
that could have just as easily have been the start. You know, it really does feel like a completely separate film, but it really does have that kind of relationship with the other part of it. Like not many films can pull off the yin yang like that.
yeah. It's pretty amazing how it does it with yeah, they're two separate movies, kind of artificially joined together, but it really works.
And I was going to make a mention during Crisp's sentencing there. He's our primary villain, and that's the last time we'll see him for a significant portion of this film.
Yeah, I always found that interesting, and it's very noticeable on rewatches. Crisp is off camera and not even mentioned really. Kimball and Phoebe sort of indirectly talk about him, but yeah, for the main villain, he's absent quite a bit. But you just sort of know in the back of your mind there'll be a reckoning as the film nears the end. One
Yeah,
of the Just to go back to that earlier point about the two films, one of the big reasons why they're able to bridge it as effectively as they do is Randy Edelman's score. He's had a long career and he's done movies of pretty much every genre, like action, and he's done a lot of comedies. He's done dramas and suspense, and with a composer of that much range, they're just able to sort of blend, two scenes and two sequences of a film of very different genres, like really well together. He's done, The Last of the Mohicans, The Mask, Billy Madison.
oh
It's
yeah,
a movie that doesn't have a lot of love, but I love it. Gone Fishing with Joe Pesci and Danny Glover. He did the score for that,
oh
and
yeah.
those are great. There's a wonderful movie called Citizen X. It's such an absorbing, gripping movie. I couldn't believe he did the score for it. with Donald Sutherland and Stephen Ray chasing a. It's a real life story of them pursuing a Russian serial killer back in the 60s or 70s, and Randy Edelman's done all that. Like you hear a synopsis like that and think he's doing this,
Yeah,
and that's one of the reasons I think the movie does well.
yeah, I think so too. And not to mention that it's not entirely far removed. Like it does give you the two movie feel, but that's not to say that the children don't have their sort of dark stories as well that happen through the film as well.
Yeah,
And I remember reading this somewhere that that was something that Arnold Schwarzenegger was actually kind of pushing for. Like he wanted to have serious themes of things like that, like child abuse and stuff. He wanted to have a fitness thing as well, which is why when he's training them as an army, they're all working out and getting active. There were
yeah,
he wanted those things in there, and I believe the third one was broken families as well, like single parents were another thing that he wanted. I'm not too sure if Schwarzenegger himself wanted that, but I remember that was a big thing of the film that they wanted. They wanted those three things. They didn't want it to be completely perfect sunshine and rainbows when the children finally did make their appearance in the film.
yeah.
And that, those are all horrible things, but they also help it to attach to how the film started.
Yeah, he has mentioned before one of the impetus to branch out and do other films was he wanted to be in films that his family could see. Because a lot of these big movies were all rated R, like The Terminator and Predator and The Running Man, Total Recall were all hard Rs when they came out. I think a couple of them have been downgraded in the interim. But yeah, part of it was he wanted to be in things that were appropriate for his own family to watch. And it's interesting. I'm not sure if they're still married, but his wife at the time, Maria Shriver, said she didn't think he like being in films like Twins and The Running, not Twins and Kindergarten Cop, not The Running Man, just showed a different side of his personality, and she believed that he wouldn't have become governor and if he didn't do these films where it shows a different side to him.
But not to mention back then, like the hard R 18 plus and all of that, like which what was a hard R back then is very much your 15 plus today.
Yeah, it's interesting how that happens because yeah, it seems like a free for all now. Like one of the comments that trailer for The Crow dropped, and like you sort of get a bit nervous watching it at work because it doesn't censor it at all. There's a guy that gets shot in the head and you see it. You think, Christ, and it's not even a red band trailer. So it's the sliding scale now. You're right. Like what was so intense back then is really tame by today's standards because it's just a big free for all now.
Yeah, like these days you'd have to have one of the kids come in with a finger cut off or something to up the and I don't get any joy in saying that, but when you look at the kind of the kind of rot you need to put into a film today to get that rating, like I don't think an R18 plus rating is something to be particularly proud of. I mean, if the film, needs to do that to tell whatever story that it's telling, okay, that's great.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of gratuitous violence like that. It's it doesn't really click with me.
Yeah,
Um,
it just seems so unnecessary. So this is all filmed in Astoria. Another film I raised my eyebrows at that was filmed there was that film Green Room, believe it or not,
oh
was
yeah,
filmed in
yeah.
Astoria.
Anton Yelchin and Patrick
Yeah,
Stewart.
yeah, what an amazing fact that is.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of weird shit seems to be happening in Astoria.
Yeah,
Like yeah. I wonder if it's like that at all. Um, it was something that I liked the most about Kimball's kind of defeated return when he came back there was he's absolutely locked into this now because if he swapped hands with Phoebe now, it's going to blow the whistle on the whole thing. You don't need to be a rocket science to know they're not actually teachers, they're cops. If they swap
Yeah.
hands now, it'll be like that. The pizza van in The Simpsons. How long does it take to deliver a pizza? We're busted. Let's roll. And then the next van that pulls up, flowers by Irene, FBI.
Yeah, that was great.
You
Yeah,
know,
what a very funny gag, though.
that's exactly what's happening here. Is that if they swapped hands now, it's too late. Kimball signed up for this. He's got to tough it out.
Yeah.
And I think his approach to getting to know the parents to get a better kind of foothold on getting to know the children was definitely the better way to go about it. Because he can click better with adults than the children at the moment.
Yeah, it's interesting how the film does this, because I guess he hasn't really gotten to know Joyce yet, but he's too good of a detective not to sense it. But by that same token, Phoebe, in a later scene, Phoebe does look into her and her story checks out. So he's very good at pursuing, suspects and who he thinks is the real ex-wife. But by that same token, Joyce has had many, many years to stay hidden. She knows how to hide, and she knows how to be a real chameleon where people don't ask questions about her. It's quite interesting how the film does that.
It's similar to the plane scene when they're trying to establish their backstory, John and Phoebe. And Phoebe says, well, how long have we been married? And then John says, a long time. That way people won't expect us to talk about ourselves. And Joyce employs a very similar tactic. Every time he brings up the ex-husband, oh yeah, we haven't seen him in years now. He left when Dominic was a baby. So it's been a long time. So they won't expect her to talk about him a lot. And plus, he's emigrated to France in her cover story. So she employs a very similar tactic to what John wanted to do.
Yeah, it's a really effective lie. You just keep it vague enough that people will fill in the blanks themselves.
Yeah, you give them A and C, but they've got to get B.
Yeah.
Yeah, this always puts a smile on my face. How he has to pick the kid up to his level, give him a serve, and then just drop him. Oh, it's brilliant. You see, and in comparison to what he was on his first day with the children, where I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions on what the man said immediately, he's talking like it is an interrogation, whereas this time he's trying to mask it as a game. His methods are becoming more in tune to what the kids would react to, like the stimuli is changing.
Yeah, I find this very realistic to the profession, actually. It's, tailoring an activity to try and get a genuine response from a kid. This is all, somewhat realistic, I think.
Yeah, there's a lot of therapists that do that as well.
Yeah.
I mean, not that I've ever seen one, people, but I gather, hey, what does Forrest Whitaker say in the Panic Room? All I know about this is what I see on TV. But it seems to be a pretty common thing, there's that line in Road Trip where, you can teach anybody anything. You've just got to find a way to relate to the subject matter. And that's that's very accurate, I think, and we're seeing it here.
Yeah, and I find it somewhat realistic as well. Like, so many of the children come from broken homes. There's, America and Australia have really high divorce rates. And so, with this montage of the students giving their responses, a fair few of them mention that their parents have separated, or it's implied.
Yeah, there is quite a lot. I think what, with the exception of the twins, this girl here, and I think maybe one other, the rest of them all have split up parents. So like 3 out of 20. I love how the twins speak in unison as well.
Yeah.
It's like Terry and Sherry.
Yeah.
Yes, and I find it interesting that Dominic slips right under his radar. Like, he does have this look here, but he doesn't seem to take it on board because he's still pretty sold on Sebastian being Crisp's kid.
Yeah, it's a great little moment there that happened between Kimball and Dominic. Again, it's just like that random throwaway line from last week. Like the truth is just right there, and it's just been overlooked.
Not to mention that he's seen a photo of Dominic when they were on the plane when he was just born. So there's no reason to think that he's lying either.
Yeah, but as a viewer, you do. Dominic is often front and center, like as in the truth is right there as well. So as a viewer, the outside looking in, we're beginning to pick up on the fact that Arnie's barking up the wrong tree here.
Yeah, also, Dominic is the first one, I think, to make his presence known when he hangs back after class when Kimball's cleaning up.
Yeah, it's a great writing technique. If you pose a mystery, the very next thing you encounter is the solution, and then you hide it again.
And I loved, I was always kind of a bit confused, a bit like a compass dancing when it comes to Kimball's reaction to the fire alarm. You got to remember, like the guy, he's a uniform. He has a badge. He's with health services like firefighting and stuff like that. He's a detective. I love how he's carrying two kids out.
Yeah,
One under his arm and then one by the waist. His reaction to that, because like in a situation of crisis, safety's paramount. Like I've always just kind of chalked it up to his detective mode kicking in.
yeah,
Screaming it's the fire alarm, didn't really help either.
yeah. It's a fire drill.
Yeah, let's not and say we did. And it's awesome. I love A sides and B sides to sequences in films, and this movie is full of them because you get the fire alarm thing where he completely botches it doing a practice evacuation, but then towards the end of the film, he gives two teenagers a serve because they're making out in a building that's on fire. So you get the A side and the B side of that. It's very cool.
Yeah, it's really good.
And not to mention, being a cop, just how many instances of child abuse he's probably had come across his desk. He could probably very easily point when something like that's happening.
Yeah,
I'm not too sure what it's like in America, but in Australia, like child protection and police investigations are pretty much hand in hand. As soon as you alert CP, the cops are the next phone call. I like this beat here with Arnold when Joyce asks if they want to join for dinner. That he's like, "Nah, we couldn't," and then he kind of just backtracks when Phoebe cuts him off and accepts.
yeah. There's a lot of good character interplay here.
Yeah, like you give them a solid no. Oh yes, that would be great.
Yeah, and the spontaneity of doing the accent, it's really good.
And not to mention Phoebe, while they're having dinner and Dominic's asleep on the chair, Phoebe finds out a lot about Kimball in that exchange that he has with Joyce. I mean, maybe not so much the coaching basketball at an all-girls school in Rhode Island, but she does start to click a little bit more with him as well.
Yeah, there's a great moment coming up with Pamela Reed and the look she gives Joyce. I'll see if I can point it out when we get to it.
I love the marina uh, backdrop as well. God, I just miss seeing something that's not a fucking green screen.
Yeah, and actual real people in the background.
Yeah, background extra. Um, yeah, this is brilliant. And even Dominic makes a mention of I like how they talk. Yeah, she really bungs it on, doesn't she? It's brilliant. Yeah, I only just caught this recently that Dominic is asleep on the two chairs. They push two chairs together.
Yeah, Kimball and Joyce are really hitting it off. There's this look coming up here. It actually prompts Phoebe to stop eating. There we go. So
Yeah.
she's has a feeling about Joyce and that sort of weird random comment she made.
Yeah, not to mention, I know I said earlier during the plane scene that it's pretty much the only time you see Phoebe's detective prowess in the whole film. Not entirely true coming back to this. Like, even before that look that you just pointed out, she's pretty much downloading data from the second she meets Joyce.
Yeah.
And just kind of, a fresh pair of eyes are always a good thing. So this is his second day, and it just kind of makes you wonder um, where a lot of this is coming from. Is he just substituting his police background and just changing the fact that his family were cops to teachers?
Yeah, well, I guess being undercover is, yeah, thinking on your feet. But like, that spy game quote, you've just told, three lies that now have to be true.
And Dominic is still asleep in the car. I love that kind of consistency. Like, I don't think it's that hard to make the next scene flow well with the previous scene. I really don't think it's that hard to do. But I love seeing it when it happens. It seems to be something that films today just can't get right.
You should be the one reading stories about bears that go shopping.
I love Phoebe's fire back here when he goes, "It's your job and I'm stuck with it." Yeah, you are. Because you were the one that went in.
Yeah.
Like, this is entirely on you. I did think it was pretty cool that he does kind of, having two seasoned professionals at that. It really is iron sharpening iron, isn't it? And after the talk that she gives him here, he really starts to take it up a notch with the kids.
Yeah.
Like, you're never too old to learn something new, and then that's something new could come from anybody.
Yeah, it's a great point. And a lot of films used to be able to do that. It's so true. You're not too old to learn anything.
I think the problem with that is the ability to learn something is seen as a weakness these days in a lot of modern films, and it's not. And I'm not too sure when that started. If you have a character go through a learning arc or pick something up along the way, it's seen as a weakness, and they always try to steer clear of it. I'll never be able to figure that out, mate, at all.
I think the rot set in for me with the complete dearth of mentor characters.
Yeah,
Now they're now every protagonist is like overpowered and super perfect right off the bat.
no assembly required.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing as well. Like, we've seen John being a very effective cop, but he's in a situation that he has no experience in.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
it's a great decision here where he's tying in their failure with the fire alarm to self improvement. It's really good.
yeah, it is. And I did like the whole police school thing, and the sign stays up for the rest of the film. I noticed on a rewatch, and you can still see the ferret in the two the yellow and the orange baskets just right of the sign. Yeah, I love the little upstairs area as well, which Kimball climbs up to fake the fire alarm when he's teaching them how to do it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, yeah. You gotta run them through like it's an academy. And see, well, the thing, like the absurdity of what he's doing here. I like the payoff to that when the principal says what an outrageous idea it was, but it did work.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you got to go back to basics. You see, and he's establishing authority over the children, not through the teacher role, but he's tying it into the whistle.
Yeah.
You know, so he's using that as the point of contact.
Yeah, it's repetition and routine.
Yeah, because if he can get them to chime in every time the whistle's blown, then like the fire alarm and school bells and all of that will just naturally fall into that cycle.
Yes.
Yes, exactly.
Can you believe there's Richard Simmons Jr. is running off?
Ha 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 ha.
He was so proud of that dumb joke, wasn't he?
Yeah, well, you know, his comedy, when he's on his own, it's very hit and miss. When he's got an awesome writer with him, it's always
And
a hit.
with Ivan Reitman. He's
Yeah, like this whole fitness kind of regime here thing. I do remember reading that. Yeah, so Arnold really wanted this to be a thing.
yeah, it's just driven him for most of his life. Was it Michael Lewis who he's an author, and a chapter of his book was about, you know, California and its economic woes in the aftermath of the GFC. He spent some time with Schwarzenegger. This was after he'd left office as governor, and he was asked, like, what's your main takeaway about him and just the life he's lived? He goes, all he wants to do is lift weights. It's the only thing where he's truly happy.
Yeah, repetition till failure.
Yeah.
I always love how he hangs back to make sure like the entire flock are coming. Like he ran back and carried a kid up to the rest of the group.
Yeah. Yeah, I did like that moment just before.
So, and Sebastian here, this is just to go back to what I was saying, where I was always of the impression that massive parts were removed from this, or maybe not massive, but you can't help but think that, especially with the Sebastian character, there seems to be something missing there, because it's coming up where the mother makes a mention of the bruises on Zach's legs, I think he says. Oh no, not Sebastian. Sebastian was the one with the gay dad that ran away. Zach, the bruises on Zach's legs before he punches out the dad. The bruised legs, I don't think, ever appears in the film, but the mother mentions it.
Yeah, okay.
Which makes me think, yeah, something was removed here, which is why I don't know if there's been a restored version or if there's deleted scenes. I'm sure someone could tell me that. But it always felt like there was something missing with that side plot. But I suppose if the old boy gets punched out, he gets his comeuppance, right?
Yeah, so it had a Blu-ray release in 2014, but I never upgraded. I've only got the DVD. I actually picked up a friend from work years ago gave me a 3-pack collection. It's got Kindergarten Cop, Liar Liar, and Uncle Buck with John Candy.
Oh, a triple threat, mate.
Yeah, I wonder if the Blu-ray has anything extra to maybe flesh that storyline out a bit.
I love how the ferret on the table is drinking milk as well.
Actually, I missed that. That's cool.
Yeah, when he sits down, yeah, the ferret has a little tray of milk. You can see it just to the left near the bird skeletons. Yeah. Yeah. Which is really cool that incorporated.
I never noticed that before. There you go.
Yeah, and this was another thing that I felt. I don't know, that it just seems like something's missing. The 13-year-old son that he keeps mentioning. Like, I'm glad that he closes it down because it's not something that the kids need to hear at all. But you can't help but think there was meant to be something with Kimball in regards to that.
Yeah.
Like, you've got Crisp actively trying to find his son, his long-lost son. Now, while Kimball's kid isn't long lost and all of that, but you got Kimball who seems to be actively distancing himself all the time.
Yeah, well, it could be just kind of putting on a brave face. He admits to Joyce later in the film that he's not really close with his old family anymore. So maybe it's just probably Kimball putting on a brave
Well, it's
face.
kind of hard
And
to know. Yeah, it's kind of hard to know what's a cover story and what's not, though, because he does talk. He's got a stepfather that treats him well now, and that's all I can really ask for. He does say that, but you really don't know if that's a cover story for Joyce, or if he's actually giving the audience information about his sort of backstory prior to this.
yeah, but then there's the later scene after he's rescued Dominic, where he kind of breaks down and confesses that he's not really close with his son. Because I do know that the scene earlier when they're at dinner at Joyce's house, yeah, it's hard to tell. If,
It really is. Yeah, I just kind of thought that like the end of the film would have been, or maybe I'm approaching it with a modern day lens. Like the end of the film would have been him reconnecting with his son based on his experiences here. But the son isn't of kindergarten age. The son's 13 now, which would put him in high school somewhere.
yeah,
So it's interesting, this dream sequence here when Chris is finally brought back into the film,
it's
al-
fantastic.
albeit in a dream. It kind of just completely re-establishes the stakes at hand.
Yeah, he's dreaming of Crisp. He looks up and he sees the wife. It's great. Such a very clever. It's so clever, and it's the oldest trick in the book. The answer is right in front of you.
Yeah, and I think it also just kind of snaps the audience back to why he's there to begin with.
Yeah,
Because you're
because
so
it's
wrapped up into his new methods of connecting with the children and being a kindergarten teacher now, you don't. You really have kind of forgotten about that intro.
yeah,
So when you have the dream sequence of Chris coming back, it just completely snaps you back, going to, oh yeah, that's right. No, he's actually here on a mission as well.
yeah,
I can't help but think maybe the dream sequence with Chris was added in towards the end, just going, you know what, this is starting to evolve into something that it's not really supposed to. So if we put this back in, it gets people grounded and centered again.
yeah. It's yeah, very effective scene. Just so eerie with Crisp just standing in the rain. And yeah, I love the payoff. He wakes up and he's the person he's looking for is standing right there.
And yeah, and you like obviously with film techniques and all of that, it's very firearms and that kind of thing. Like I don't think for a second that Chris pulled out a gun in an actual school. Um,
Yeah, it's
but I
well,
do know that's one of the big reasons why people kind of shy away from this film today.
well,
Like,
yeah. There's a lot of violence in it. I do. So, like, I have sometimes wondered how it's received in America with the you know many school shootings they've had to sort of endure. I'm just so lucky we don't really have that problem in this country.
yeah, no, not anymore. Not for a long time now. Yeah, I thought the fiance was really good. You're marrying a chef. Figures.
Yeah,
Because of the
this is
eating
great.
thing. Yeah, it's brilliant. Like, of course she's marrying a chef.
But I don't understand why. So there's an extra car park there. Phoebe may have a visitor. Why does he? Why does he draw his weapon and barge in? I'm not quite sure of his reaction here.
I love how he like immediately get all business as soon as he sees. But it's parked like it's not running hot or anything like that. The
Yeah.
car's just parked there, so he just freaks
And
it.
Phoebe's a cop, so she can obviously handle herself. It's yeah. I thought it was an interesting moment that he
Yeah,
would this reaction. Yeah,
yeah. Phoebe's a cop. Yeah, yeah. I'm a chef. Yeah, you're marrying. I love the way Arnold delivers that. You're marrying a chef. Or how Phoebe just palms off the scraps
yeah,
to Kimball on the way out.
yeah.
Yeah, I love that little beat. and the eye roll. He's very his acting. Arnold Schwarzenegger when he does moments, he's got such a physical presence where a simple eye roll from him just makes you crack up.
Yeah, he's quite good in the face.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, this was the beat I was talking about here because it really does feel like we should have seen something earlier in the film to kind of set this up. He has tried to catch up with her a couple of times and she's driven off. And she makes the mention of the bruised legs, but that has never happened at all in this film.
Well, one thing you do see is the bruised neck. So maybe the addition of another one that communicates the exact same thing was not necessary.
Oh,
Is
yeah,
probably
maybe
my
you're right,
guess.
yeah. And he also did say if it happens again, I'm pressing charges. You know, because he's probably heard this kind of thing a lot in his career as a detective.
Yeah,
Like look at this woman now. Like, she's utterly terrified of going home. Like,
yeah. I know from Terminator 2, a couple of sequences were cut of the T-1000 deducing that they're going to the mental hospital. Like
yeah.
he lingers for a long time at the foster home, but it's not needed. Like he knows the T-1000 knows it's been duped on the phone. So
Well, you've also
like
got to.
five or six,
Well,
yeah, like
you got to remember the T800 though also says that to John, going,
yes,
well, it's going to go and copy Sarah. Its next best chance for survival is to just go there itself, copy her, and wait for you to make contact. So it's going there anyway. You don't need that scene because the
yeah,
T800 has already flat out said that. We learned that with John. So you don't
yeah.
need to
So
see the T1000 off screen working out how to get there.
yeah, it's extraneous to the story, so it has to go.
This moment here with Cindy picking up the spiked drugs, this totally went over my head for the longest time. This, so you have a drug deal there, like drugs plastered everywhere. We dip back into that real kind of gritty, grimy, and there's like doll toys and stuff all around. It's a very sinister moment. This
Oh yeah, I
that just
think twice
completely
about
comes out of nowhere. Yeah.
yeah, I think twice about showing this to a child actually this film because yeah, a lot of it's not appropriate at all.
Oh, definitely not. Yeah, it's crazy. It's such a hodgepodge, and it does it incredibly well. But like, as I said at the uh, start of this chat, like this kind of thing just wouldn't happen today because people would go out of their way. Like as soon as children are brought up, they're either the complete main focus of the film, telling their own story. Um, like adults are featured into it and it's bright, it's colorful, and no harm in the world can happen to you. Like it's basically those two things these days. And then you get
Yeah,
the occasional nugget of something slipping under the radar, like fucking cuties, which blows my mind. That when I look at that in comparison to this, um, I think people's worries about this are completely a kindergarten cop are totally washed away. Um,
yeah. It's
it's baffling to me how slippery the slope has become with modern filmmaking.
it was fairly progressive of this film back in the day for the Joyce asks him out for dinner.
There's nothing wrong with that, you know.
No, I
like,
mean I'm all about equality, so but
well,
it's
so am
you
I.
know
Like there's all this arguing about like, oh, who splits the check, who goes 50-50. Oh, if you go the whole way, then you're a loser, you're a beta orbiter, cuck soy boy, or something like that. Like if
yeah.
like okay, like this is how I see it. If I'm asking the chick out, it's on me. Like it's as simple as that. But if she's asking me around for a decent home cooked meal, I'm all up for it, mate. All you got to do
Yeah.
is tell me no, baby.
Yeah, it's a bit of a callback to the earlier scene. Come on, Cindy, I'll even cook you dinner. What do you say?
Yeah, and let's just say I'm not going to offer to cook her dinner. I thought this was a very sweet moment. This when they run across the backyard with each other, and I love the car seat set up in the hidden base.
Yeah.
See, because in a lot of ways, Dominic has led him into something that he hasn't really told his mother about. Like Dominic trusts him enough to tell him these. And Joyce does make a mention later of he said something about lasers. It kind of just sat with me that he doesn't share those kind of feelings with his mother at all. And
Yeah,
on the fireplace
it's
coming up, she kind of sighs, going, "Oh, I thought he forgot about all of that." So he clearly
yeah,
trusts Kimball to such a degree. He's divulging things to him that he won't even tell his mother about.
yeah. He's onto her now. It's a really cool part of the film.
And I love the kind of child innocence here when he plays it up with, and also the Ghostbusters bed set. There, you made a mention that the director was coming off of Ghostbusters, so a nice little Easter egg there in Dominic's room.
Yeah, yeah. Ivan Reitman, he directed Ghostbusters 1 and 2.
Yeah, so in Dominic's room, he has a Ghostbusters bed set. Yeah, like this house is huge. Where's the dining room? I'm lost. Like I love the way he plays that. Adults just never have that kind of innocence, and I also think children have the best kind of bullshit detectors in the world as well. Um, yeah. Well, I thought the candles would be romantic for the ladies. So there's a candlelit dinner, but they're not even at the table.
Yeah, well, I think they're finished, and now I think it's time for dessert.
Yeah, because isn't that kind of the thing in America? Like you gotta have coffee and dessert after your big thing.
Yeah, I never turn down a feed. I'm with Kimball.
Well, I can't cook for shit, so whenever someone fires up the kitchen and all of that, I'm on board.
All you gotta do is tell me no, baby.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm like. Well, and not to mention, like Crisp said at the start, I'll be out of here in a week and you'll be eating takeout food in that dump you live in. You get the idea that, a decent home cooked meal probably Kimball wouldn't shy away from it either.
Yeah,
Yeah, the old fireplace scenes.
yeah. It's a really well put together scene. The flames flickering on their faces. They have really good chemistry together. I really disagree with some of the kind of critical reaction that
Apparently
the
Penelope, yeah, apparently Penelope Ann Miller, she had a bit of an attitude on set.
okay, I haven't heard that. I've heard her speak really highly of Arnold though. She it's because I know some of them, they're so high on themselves. Their antics while filming have really hurt the movies. Probably the most famous example that comes to mind was Val Kilmer and Marlon Brando. They torpedoed that Dr. Moreau movie with the way they carried on. And I think in some of Stallone's career, his antics offset have really hurt some of his films. But I don't hear a lot of stories like that about Arnold. He seems to, like Jim Cameron said, he's the most professional actor he's ever worked with. I'd never heard this before, but just his sort of routine while filming the original Terminator, how he often worked and trained and rehearsed alone. Obviously, there's a
Yeah. I remember hearing something. It was
drawing on these.
yeah,
Are you there?
yeah. It just kind of cut out on me a little bit. Yeah, I've got you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Linda Hamilton was saying, just sort of watching and hearing him, like he just go deep inside himself to just bring out this character. It was, and that's when our eyes sort of lit up. This could be like a really memorable performance, and this movie could be like really big. So yeah, you don't often hear a lot of stories of Arnie carrying on. But you do with the others though a lot.
Yeah, I'm sure just about all of them you could tell stories about this. I do like the slow integration of Phoebe into the day to day of school activities.
Yeah,
Like she's there now, and they're organizing a school fete. They're getting ready for their Independence Day and all that kind of stuff. Um, Sorry, America, I'm very foggy on what they're practicing here. Um, yeah, and she's slowly but surely, like, because I believe the next time you see her with the kids, she's actually in the classroom as well.
yeah, and yeah, it's the pacing of this movie is really good. Phoebe's back in action. It feels like we only pressed play 10 minutes ago.
See, that's what
It
I
really,
mean. Like, this film could have started, now.
yeah, the plot is moving along at a really steady clip, and it's a great scene. Often overlooked when I sort of watched it growing up, but yeah, it's a very underrated wrinkle in the story. Joyce's story checked out, and Phoebe thinks he's barking up the wrong tree this time.
Yeah, not to mention, like, we hadn't quite, digital records were just starting to get rolled out, and she's going under a new name now. So, like what the original name, it was Rachel, wasn't it?
Yeah,
So, yeah, anything that's concrete will be under Joyce's name, and that, Rachel doesn't exist as far as she's concerned now.
yeah,
See, yeah, it's cool how now that they're totally, totally falling into line. But I love how when they hold up, they all turn around.
yeah. It's so cute.
See, yeah, like again, I don't think this kind of and having this kind of moment, it just it seems like I know we talked about how animals need to be treated on set and all of that. I can't help but think at this day and age, the reason why you don't see films like this anymore, or at least not on this kind of scale anymore, is because there must be so much red tape around using children actors that
Yeah,
they
well,
probably just steer
as
clear of it.
well. Yeah, and it's for the best. I mean, they're children this young aren't capable of making their own decisions. So I agree with a lot of the red tape. But I also think comedy hasn't evolved along this kind of film's tone. There's very few comedies now I could really recommend to people. I think it changed around the turn of sort of the late 90s with American Pie. Now, don't get me wrong, I loved American Pie. I saw them and all that, but they're so gross out and vulgar.
Mm.
That's where comedy evolved, where the Seth Rogans and who's the other guy with
Oh,
the
Seth
curly.
MacFarlane shit and all that.
It's just gross out, lowest common denominator stupidity. The really well written comedies with the really, of course, your mileage may vary, but the well written comedies like Meet the Parents and The Burbs, The Ref with Dennis Leary, they're extinct. Comedies, I don't know if it's changed for better or worse, but I very rarely seek out comedy films anymore because they were by the 2000s and the early 2010s, they're just gross out vulgar comedies that panders to lowest common denominator lines. They're not witty lines. They're not witty sort of.
They play out the same way because you can only react to a visual gag one way.
Yeah, and they're chock full of swearing and that's funny for some people and gross out vulgar kind of comedies like these movies do huge. So obviously there's an appetite for them, but I really miss the sort of days of like Meet the Parents is a riot and it's fun for the whole family. Like you could easily, but you couldn't do that with something like the Pineapple Express or the Hangover or something like that. That's where
Yeah,
comedy.
yeah, yeah. Comedy's only catering to adults and totally alienating all youth. Yeah, that's not. Yeah, yeah. I see where you're
Because
coming from.
it requires a lot of skill and effort to write something for all ages.
Oh, well, you're asking for too much
It's
now.
well, something that children and adults will get something out of. It's
Yeah.
quite hard to.
Uh,
Now,
I
find this
just,
scene really plausible. This scene, it's a really good scene. This with Arnie and the principal.
I was gonna say, I love how the stepdad, oh no, the actual dad, whatever, who knows, when he's like, when Kimball is like berating the mother, you know, you said the kid fell down the stairs, you all say the same thing, and she's like firing back at him. I love how the dad, you know, oh, so you must be Kimball, goes for the handshake when they're clearly having this volatile conversation, and then Kimball just walks over and decks him, but he goes for the handshake. Like he's trying to play it cool, like, yeah, you did just piss off the wrong guy, mate. And yeah, Linda Hunt throwing the right hook at nothing was always good. And this immediate smash cut to Cindy, just cold on ice, dead for weeks, you know, whoa. Like just a smash cut that again you think you're watching like a third movie now.
Yeah, so they no longer have a case against Crisp.
And one thing I wanted to point out about Crisp here is that his relationship with his mother, you get something. See, there's something going on here that you can clearly tell why he is the way that he is because of the way she treats him, even when he's a full grown man. The pharmacy scene springs to mind as well. So Chris' kind of psychotic behavior towards his son, you can really see where that came from. It's very interesting that I don't see a lot of people talk about.
Yeah, the grandmother's clearly off her off her rocker.
Yeah, but you can't help but think that like Crisp himself probably had an abusive home as well, through like the over mothering effect. Because when they're in the pharmacy, and you know you shoved all this crap down my throat for years, she was clearly extremely overprotective, just over mothering. Even when he's a full grown man, she's still doing it, and you know Chris was doing the pushback on her as well. You just can't help but think Chris' attitude towards Dominic when he finally does find him again, a lot of that is sharpened from his mother.
Yeah.
Because they really don't give much away about Crisp's character a lot.
No, it's just broad strokes, and yeah, the audience fill in the blanks.
So you got to kind of have one last, you know, good kind of bright and sunny moment before you completely play out your end game.
Yeah, it's great how all the revelations come out. Yeah, it's meant to be such a happy, sunny, fun day, and all this there's this dark undercurrent bubbling underneath. Very effective.
Yeah, because Phoebe gets word that you know when your main case is dead, literally on ice. That basically the entire job's been called off. So it more or less becomes a now or never thing because Chris not in custody anymore. But well, they don't know that just yet. But we do as an audience.
Yeah.
And you're also seeing something else that's happening here, and that not only has Kimball like assimilated well into the kindergarten environment, but also the town as a whole. That all these people know who he is.
Yeah.
So he really has become, like, in a sense, he's become a local to the area now.
Yeah, Mr. Kimball.
Yeah, it's yeah. You got to have one last. This has probably got to be my favorite beat in the whole thing. Like,
Chris and his relentless quest to get the train set.
yeah, yeah. Chris trying to buy toys. Like, yeah, like as a toy collector, I totally relate to this bit. So this, without a doubt, is one of my favorite moments of the entire film.
Yeah, I can relate even more. I actually bought a train set last year.
Yeah, but the amount of shit you got to go through to get one.
Oh, oh Christ, yeah, and space like the fucking table. Oh, sorry, it's not a train set. It's a car set. Yeah.
Yeah, well, same thing, man. Like, you know, yeah. So, and the real unsung hero of this film, Daryl. You know, yeah. So this is brilliant. This because it's like outside of killing the drug informant at the start of the film, we haven't really seen Crisp at all on his own. So to get just something with him was really cool. And I think Richard Tyson just nails this. And like, I wonder what he was up to. Was he just well? There's a couple of things to be learned there. One is you never know who it is that you're talking to. Is it like there was a similar beat at the start with Kimball, like when the guys at the house, like they've at the party where he goes to grab Cindy, they've got no idea who they're messing with, and there's a very similar thing happening here with Crisp. Like had that bloke have known Chris just got out of jail, he would probably change his tune.
Yeah, yeah, you never can tell about people, can you? Now,
Yeah,
this is my favorite part of the score. Randy, I forget the actual name of this piece of music. I think it's The Truth Comes Out or The Truth at Last, but yeah, it's very sinister sounding and very ominous. Crisp knows where they are.
and you notice that the colors are becoming more devoid of the fate. Like the sun's going down, everything's like unwinding. The balloons aren't so prominent anymore.
Yeah.
Like it really has just completely cranked up a gear, and she's literally just heard the absolute nightmare personified that she never wanted to happen. That's probably here now.
Yeah, Penelope Ann Miller plays this scene brilliantly. It's almost, yeah, I
Well, the entire movie is essentially like this is the linchpin of the entire thing. This, like if this scene falls flat on its ass, we don't have a movie.
yeah, it really elevates the whole piece. Just some really intense acting by Penelope Ann Miller here.
Not to mention the reveal that there was no drug money either. Like
Yeah, that
that's
was a,
something that these guys had no idea about.
yeah, it's something only Joyce knows. It's a terrific, yeah, I was, yeah, very unexpected and surprising. It was a nice story twist.
Yeah, so it's like I wonder why Chris told that lie though. Like I'm not too sure if there was something in the film that gave that away or answered
Well,
that
he,
question.
yeah, he doesn't go out of his way to correct people. When Arnie mentions the money, Chris stays silent.
Yeah.
He doesn't. He's quite happy to let them go on thinking that. So a bit of canniness and cunning on his part.
Yeah, I that's probably my favorite bit in the whole film. Just there, like I'm just not getting through to you, am I, Daryl? Bang, and just lays him out. Yeah, look, man, we take toy collecting very seriously. Yeah, and I've always thought if I ever worked as a pharmacist, that's what I'd be saying every time someone came in to pick up Benadryl. 'Tis the season.
It is the season. I
Like
never
flu
caught.
season's fucking all the time, man. Like,
I never caught this actress's name either. She is. I mean, this is flowers in the attic territory now. She is a dead set tyrant.
Yeah, it's just that's what I mean. Like, you could even make the argument she's the main antagonist of the entire film, not Crisp.
Yeah, she's the apocalypse to Crisp's Magneto.
Pretty much, yeah. She is just so cranked up a gear, and she had no hesitation to start killing people. Um, yeah, and you can see like the house has been ransacked. So, and I love the way Kimball plays this, where Schwarzenegger plays this, because as far as he's aware, Chris probably already snagged both of them.
Yeah, and it's a lovely character beat where he continues to call her Joyce. He called her Rachel earlier and saw how she reacted. So he's reverted back to calling her by her preferred name now.
Yeah.
It's a lovely moment, really subtle, but I did pick up on it.
See, and she has no idea where he could be, and Arnold does, which is very, it's similar to the friend of a friend approach when they start talking about their troubles and how they're feeling and all that kind of thing. Like, sometimes an immediate family member, they won't risk divulging their worries like that. But if it's a trusted figure like a teacher or a coach or something, they tend to feel more comfortable with an outsider knowing it.
Yeah.
So I love the fact that Arnold, that Kimball has the answer as to where Dominic is when Joyce doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really awesome beat, that. Yeah, the radio tower. Look, I don't do heights very well. At all. I mean, I get vertigo just going up to a second story.
Yeah. Heights.
I love just how Kimball's got his game face on.
Yeah. I can't do spiders. I saw that trailer for that new Adam Sandler movie. Get fucked.
Well, what's it called?
Spaceman, where he's on a mission to another planet. There's a giant fucking alien spider in the ship with him.
Yeah,
Get fucked.
yeah. Did he mention the spider?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love how I don't know why you're berating Kimball because he's a cop. Yeah, well, she wanted to travel and meet interesting people. Yeah, like Crisp. Okay, has Crisp's first name been spoken out loud? It's Cullen Crisp, isn't it?
Yeah, I got a bit confused. I always pronounced it Colin, but apparently it's Cullen.
Yeah, alright.
Cullen. But Joyce calls him I think, in the toilets in the school, Colin. But,
Yeah,
I always thought it was Colin, but it's actually Cullen, I believe he's credited as.
Yeah, okay. I'll keep an eye out when we get to the credits. Yeah, I don't think his name. I know Phoebe. I think Phoebe says it in the plane scene. She says because it wasn't originally Dominic. It was Colin Jr.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's I think is the only time it was said out loud. Because Chris does his nut about the kid being named Dominic. She always wanted to call him Dominic.
Yeah, Dominic.
Yeah, so this is awesome. She returns to work like nothing's happened. Crisp and I believe Crisp is actually in the building as well with them.
Yeah.
And their reaction to the kiss on the cheek as well was pretty nice. So, and Phoebe's reaction to the dog whistle, because she doesn't know what he's been doing with these kids. So yeah, her reaction to all this is just awesome. That he did learn, he did crack the code. And I just realized there's 2 doors into this classroom.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, there's one that they walk through, and then there's one near the lockers on the far side of the room. So
Okay.
there's two doors into it. I never noticed that before. See, well, when I first saw this, I always thought the room changed, but no,
Yeah.
it's the same one. And not to mention the stranger danger talk
Yeah.
that happens.
Pamela Pamela Reed just kills it in the rest of these scenes. She's great.
Because this is pretty much the only scene she has where she's doing what she was supposed to do.
Yeah. Yeah, it took a while, but we got there, the original plan.
Yeah, so yeah, it did happen. And I suppose her staying on the sidelines at this point wasn't an option because if Crisp is there, they're gonna need two pair of eyes, and Joyce is in another room. So at least one person will always have to stay with Dominic.
Yeah.
So yeah, so my guess is that was just another reason as to why she's there.
Yeah, two against one. They have better odds.
Although they don't know that old witch is hanging around as well. Um, yeah, I love how silver tongued Richard Tyson does this. It's brilliant. Especially when you compare it to when Arnold first met Linda's character. Like
Yes.
the way he just totally like Crisp is a very good liar, and yeah, it's just brilliant. Like she is totally eating out of his hand, and also he knows straight. Well, we know as an audience as well, but I love how Crisp, the second he sees that kid, he knows straight away.
Yeah. Yeah, well, yeah, the casting's really good. They do look alike.
Yeah, they do. It's bang on, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really good casting, looks wise.
I love the King of the Hill
It's-
game going on.
yeah. Kimball, not again.
Yeah, and I love that beat of oh well, I'm sure he is. Like the history these two guys have is so cool. Yeah, like smoking and all of that. Carrying guns and stuff, and nipping in and out of schools. Yeah, I do remember reading a lot of things recently when people do retrospectives on this film. That yeah, that's something that a lot of them try to shy away from that.
Yeah, it's quite dark
And
what
not
he's
to
doing
mention,
here.
yeah, the arson thing, yeah, and the fact that he uses a finger painting to light this fire just shows you the utter disregard this guy has.
Yeah, setting a library on fire. It's classy stuff from Crisp here.
Yeah, new and interesting people.
Yeah. What a goose stepping morons should try reading books instead of burning them.
Yeah, it's just like book reading should be left to those who understand it. Well, how do you know you're going to understand them unless you read them? It's not like we're talking quantum physics here. And I love that look. It's awesome.
Yeah.
See, yeah, there's the second door. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it was cool that this payoff finally happened. They failed the first test. They've been practicing the fire drill and all of that. Then we finally get a moment where they put it into practice,
Yeah, and they get it right when it counts.
and I absolutely love how they totally just eat Crisp alive with the stranger danger talk as well. Yeah, Dominic and the ferret. I love that. And immediately Kimball makes the beeline and keeps Dominic close to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, this really gets out of hand fast. This doesn't it? Like the entire like side block has just gone up. See, like you can see the fire spread out into the main hall, and it's taken the stairs.
Yeah. Yeah, it's getting out of control really quickly.
Now, I don't really understand how Chris was going to do this. My guess is he was just going to do a snatch and run, but it's yeah, for a guy who has all these plans and you know what to do and all of that. It seems to me he really, like, the second he grabbed Dominic, he really was just kind of winging it from here on out.
Yeah, I guess he's not thinking clearly, and oh Christ, he just oh Kimball whipping the gun out, and it's quite good. Phoebe's character has a secondary function; she can get the kids out into the yard safely, and it frees up Kimball to pursue Crisp
Not to
into
mention,
the
it keeps her separated from the action as well because
yeah
they don't let her back inside.
yeah
So this school must cover all grades because when he busts these two teenagers here and he gives them a serve, see, that always, slipped me for a bit of a ringer. That
yeah. Well, it says Astoria Elementary, which implies it's just an infant school, but yeah, those kids look significantly older, don't they?
yeah, and the room that he was just in with like the map and all of that kind of stuff, like it seems to span to high schoolers as well.
Yeah.
I just really think Chris was such an awesome villain because when he realizes, like, it's crazy how quick the needle swings. Like he immediately starts using the boy as a bullet shield.
Yeah, he's a really scummy thing to do.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm talking about. Like like he himself is a bit of a hurricane personified, isn't he? Like he really only wants this kid back for no other reason than he sees the kid as his own personal property. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, you can't help but think maybe Joyce was right.
Yeah, she knows how to pick 'em.
Yeah, I know. And they all lived happily ever after. Apparently, Dominic was played by twins.
Yeah, that's right. So there's a YouTube video, kind of a reunion special, where they recall a couple of the child actors all grown up now, and yeah, and like we sort of discussed earlier, a lot of that was to follow the child work laws. They could only work a certain amount of time, so to get around that, you'd cast twins, and they play the same role,
Yeah.
and that was the impetus that the actor who played Dominic, or one half of the actor, yeah, so Dominic, yeah, was played by twins.
I absolutely love how this guy just totally tells her to kick rocks. See, that's what like ambulances and all of that, like smoke inhalation. Far out, doesn't that do some damage?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Lee Fletcher here. Just oof. Oh, good lord.
you know,
That would have hurt.
yeah, it would have, wouldn't it? Like, what does Batman say to Bane? The last time I saw you, you were wrapped around the hood of my car. And just to show the audience that he still has the ferret, you get that little jacket check.
Yeah.
I thought this was really powerful. Their reunion here.
Yeah. They look really pleased to see each other, don't they?
Yeah. You know, like when I first saw this, I was, young kid. I was fully expecting Chris to just flat out shoot Rachel here. Like the way Richard Tyson plays it and smacks her out, the intensity in his performance here, you just can't help but think he is going to murder her, like, in front of their son. So yeah, it's kind of like a change room
Yeah, the
that they're
locker,
in.
the
Yeah.
gym locker. Yeah,
So doesn't Kimball take some punishment? Like, I know Phoebe got hit by a car, but he gets shot like 3 or 4 times in the
yeah,
ending here. See, like, straight up, like, Crisp looking as about as stable as a three-legged chair at the moment. I love the way Richard Tyson delivers this line. Drop it. I'm losing it. Yeah, I can tell. And I love how Kimball plays this because, like, no one knows Crisp's jacket as well as he does.
yeah,
You know, he will kill the kid. You know, like, straight up. And the ferret never bites, and then you finally get this payoff.
yeah. The ferrets probably never encountered a scumbag like Chris before.
Yeah, well, that's true. See, and that's what I'm talking. Like they confront each other for a matter of seconds, really, and then it's over, and Crisp is dead. Um, it's really, which again, and then you get the immediate danger of this.
Yeah.
So,
Oof.
so really, the grandmother was the main villain for a lot of this.
Yeah, the final obstacle. She's not happy.
See, like like, but I love how she takes the magazine out of the gun here. It's a little,
Yeah, it's a nice moment here.
and
One in the chamber, dickhead.
yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, there's still one in the chamber, but audiences didn't know that shit back then. See,
One in
but
the
like,
chamber.
she doesn't even look at all phased that her only son's been killed. Like, you know, like for her, it's always been about Dominic. Like, it's, you know, Chris getting killed. Like, that means jack shit. And I mean, come on, you got to give Pamela Reed the
Yeah,
the coup de grace. And since they're in a sports shed, you can easily buy the baseball bat.
yeah. She
Just
didn't miss.
fucking lays her out, eh? And she's using it as like a crutch. Yeah, because like what? Yeah, the hip's been done in, and she's on crutches at the hospital. But yeah, I was
Yeah,
just saying that yeah, it's a very kind of grim moment here.
yeah. I never noticed the grandmother getting walked out with cuffs.
Yeah, because she lived.
My eyes were always drawn to Pamela Reed limping out. But yeah, this is really sweet here. The kids all rallying around
Well, he was more or less become a bit of a superhero in that last few moments, and Dominic still has the ferret.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Well, I suppose you only get a confrontation that good if your foundation's strong, don't you? Like, you can't start the characters off weak, then have them all play out their hand like that and expect it to be good if they stumbled out of the gate. Like, you really
yeah,
do need to introduce them incredibly well to get a satisfying ending like that.
yeah. And once again, it barely feels like we've started, and now we're at the end. The the pacing is just and the plot ticking over is just really well done in this film. It only feels like we kicked off about 20 minutes ago.
Yeah,
I
I
can't believe we're
know.
at the end of it.
Like, this could just as easily have been the start of the film.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that we get to see Henry one last time. Henry, I didn't
Giving up.
recognize you with all your clothes on. Yeah, the gift basket and flowers and all of that. Like, all the things that he just absolutely hates.
Yeah, it's a great scene, this one.
It was cool that after the kiss that they address each other as partner. I really like that. That after going through something like that, these like life changing um, development that Kimball has, so he's not such a grouch anymore. I suppose he lightens up to letting people in a lot more now.
Yeah.
Yeah, where do we send the invitation? See, this was an interesting way of ending this. So what? He's turned his badge in and he's become a teacher full time.
Well, that was my take on it. And it kind of pays off an earlier scene where Phoebe asks Kimball why he's so invested. He's going to be going back to dealing with criminals soon enough, and Arnie's look just kind of softens for a bit. He's not all that keen to go back. So him deciding to become a teacher full time, and it also pays off the speech the principal gives at the fair, hoping that he'll consider taking on a permanent position. And Schwarzenegger considers it. There is a quote from him, but I can't find the source where he considers when plans were afoot for the sequel. I think they kind of did reach out to him, but he considers John Kimball retired now as both a police officer and a teacher. But he always, it's funny you mentioned the fact that he's a superhero. I was reading he developed a superhero series with Stan Lee. I'm not sure what year it was, called Superhero Kindergarten or something along those lines. And I was reading it stems from his desire to, he wanted to do a sequel to Kindergarten Cop. He loved playing the Kimball character. But I think that ship has sailed.
Yeah, it's been about 33 years, 34 years.
Yeah, so he does consider. And the sequel with Dolph Lundgren came out in 2016. So, yeah, a 26-year gap.
Yeah, I love how...
But they're completely standalone. The sequel has nothing in common.
Yeah, it's a sequel in name only. I love getting shot in the leg, picking up a woman, and still putting weight on that leg.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's just a nice kind of closing moment.
Yeah, I love the fact that he came back, and I love the fact
and
that
he's credited just as
mistake.
Crisp, which is why I had to ask Richard Tyson. Yeah, was his first name ever spoken in the film? I believe it was a couple of times in passing. Yeah, no, it's a good little number, this, and it's probably the thing that really cemented Arnold as a household name. People really knew him from the Terminator and, you know, Predator and your Commandos and all of that, but I think this was the one where he really did sort of...
He showed a different side to himself, yeah, it really, and like Twins was a massive success, but this proved beyond any doubt he's got comedic chops, and he was just, yeah, really sort of diversified. It wasn't always smooth sailing on the comedy side. Last Action Hero did not do well, and Junior did not do well, but he has continued sort of through the 90s to do these sorts of films with Jingle All the Way and that kind of stuff. So,
well, I think when you look at all the other action stars that tried to make the jump to comedy, I think the one thing that they're all lacking is that they never had a Kindergarten Cop of their own.
Yeah, and they didn't have Ivan Reitman. Stallone's two notorious ones were Stop or My Mum Will Shoot and Oscar, and they were both flops. So I think Ivan Reitman was the key to this. He really saw in Arnold he's got really good comedic timing and good comedic instincts. And there's a good high concept there of the undercover cop being a kindergarten teacher.
Yeah, because no one would have just walked into it and bought Arnold as a straight-up kindergarten teacher, but you would buy him as a detective that's all grizzled, going undercover as one. You gotta introduce them, you gotta lead them in with an already kind of role to get the real role, to make it more easy to digest, I suppose.
Yeah.
But I thought it was awesome. It's a great fit for any occasion, isn't it? Kindergarten Cop. I haven't seen the sequel, but I'll probably get around to it sooner or later.
Yeah, I've seen it several times, more times than it deserves. Frankly, it's not a good movie because it has no heart and it has no creativity to it.
Yeah.
I quite like Dolph Lundgren. I'm a big fan of his work, but it was just a really ill-conceived project. Well, for one thing, he's searching for a memory stick in a school, whereas Arnold is looking for an actual human being. So you lose that sort of character-driven part of the story, and for some strange reason, it timestamps the days. So he's only in the school for a week, where Monday the scenes roll, then it's Tuesday the scenes roll. Whereas you get the feeling Arnie spent weeks, if not months, there getting to know the kids and getting the ropes for his new job, and it's not overly funny. It seemed like there's a horribly ill-conceived romance in it where, she's young enough to be his daughter. It's really cringe, and I keep watching it. I keep being drawn to it,
See,
trying to find something in it to like, because this movie's so good.
special thanks to students, parents, and staff of Astor School, and all. Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
no, I
the
think
other
I think this
thing,
really was a one and done. This one.
yeah, it like I there's this smarmy term that gets tossed around called comfort viewing, but it doesn't have to mean have a negative connotation. Because I was ill about a couple of weeks ago. I could feel, some nausea and a fever coming on, and this film was was playing. I was flicking through channels looking for something to watch while I got over my cold, and it was about 15, 20 minutes into it, and yeah, I just had a really good time. Like I turned everything off, had an early night, and watched the rest of Kindergarten Cop, and that's what comfort viewing's all about. It's a movie I've watched ever since it came out, ever since I was a boy. I hope and I hope I continue to revisit it for as long as I live. I think it's that good of a film.